Hi everyone, have you ever looked at an IKEA cabinet and thought this is like the perfect solution I have been looking for, only to bring it home and to find out that it is too big or too small for your space? You want to cut and resize it, but you're scared it's gonna get all messed up. Well, we dared, and that's exactly what we did, and we couldn't be happier with the results.
Mine's fitting so nicely.
So we are going to share how we did it and the things that we messed up and you should avoid. So make sure that you watch it till the end. Our kids' room is small and is short on storage, and most of their toys, especially the bigger ones, end up under their bed. So we thought that it would be perfect to have these underbed storages that can hold these larger items kind of out of sight. And online, there are a lot of options available. We wanted something more sturdy, nothing made of cloth or plastic, and deep enough to kind of hold their larger toys. IKEA now offers these MALM drawers on casters independent of their mom beds, and we thought these would be perfect. Except that our kids' bed frames are these generic metal frames from Walmart, and the mom drawers are a little bit too big for them. There was another option which was too small, and we wanted to maximize the use of space under the beds. So we decided to get those drawers and cut them up. So first I'll share how to do it correctly, and then I'll share the issues that I faced. Make sure to watch it all the way to the end so that you don't repeat our mistakes and learn from our mistakes. All right. So here are how to do things correctly. First of all, you want to start off by studying the IKEA manual to understand how the cabinet you are trying to modify is built and what are the modifications you are going to need to do after you cut one of the sides. In case of these mom drawers, the front panel is the longest and has a groove at the lower side. The two side panels attach on the top side of the groove. The back panel is the same height as the side panels. And finally, the bottom panel is the same length as the back panel and is attached under the side and back panels, and it slides into the groove that is on the front panel. So in order to reduce the length, we needed to cut the front, bottom, and the back panel. We started off by marking the front panel because we wanted the front panel to completely slide under the beds. In order to make things easier for us, we stood the bottom panel into the groove that is on the front panel and marked where we were planning to cut the bottom panel, and then finally marked the back panel the same length as the bottom panel cut. Make sure whenever you're aligning these panels, you're taking care of the sides. As in, if you're marking the front panel face side down, basically you need to mark all the panels with their exterior side facing down. This will ensure that when you put the drawer back together, all the cut edges end up on the same side of the drawer, and all the pre-drilled holes on the bottom panel still match up with those in the side and the back panel on the uncut sides. And then the last things we did just before cutting the sides was to draw lines corresponding to the centers of the holes that were already present on the sides that were getting cut off, so that we would have kind of a reference for where we would need to drill the holes afterwards. And then we taped off the cut lines with some strong masking tape on both sides of the boards. There are videos on YouTube which say that this is probably not necessary, but we didn't want to take chances, and in our case, we feel that we did notice a difference between when we did cover the cut lines versus when we did not. So then we thought all that was left to do was to cut the panels and drill some new holes on the cut sides, and we would be ready to assemble the drawers. As it turns out, the front panel on these IKEA drawers are hollow. There is a thick strip of MDF at the edges where the initial holes were, but the rest of the panels are these thin outside boards with thin scaffolding made of what looks like cardboard material on the inside, which meant that if we were to just drill holes in these, they wouldn't be able to provide any support with the screws that go in them. Our solution was to find some scrap wood that was thick enough to cover the width where the new holes will need to be drilled, and then cut strips out of that wood the same thickness as the gap inside the front panel. We removed some of the cardboard scaffolding and then wedged the scrap wood piece inside the gap after applying a thin layer of wood glue over it. Now, in order to drill holes, we created templates out of cut-off panels of the back panel and the bottom panel. The bottom panel is the easiest as the screw holes are already drilled through. So you just line up the piece that you have cut from a given bottom board on the same side and drill through. A 732 drill bit fits the screw holes perfectly. For the casters, mark a straight line at 90 degrees to the long edge at the same distance as the caster holes on the template and drill where the lines meet the horizontal lines we marked prior to cutting using a 7/64 bit. Stop a little bit short of the full depth of the panel for the caster holes, so you can mark the depth on the bit itself by putting the bit inside one of the pre-drilled holes and putting a masking tape over the bit at the surface level. For the back and the front panel, you take a cut-off piece of a back panel and drill the 3 holes through and through. For the double hole, you need a 732 bit, the same one that you used for the bottom panel, and for the 2 screw holes, you need a 3/16 bit. When you create a template, make sure to mark the bottom edge of this template. Mark the depth of the holes that you need to drill the same way that we did for the caster holes. Align the uncut edge of the template to the cut edge of the back panel while the bottom edges on both are aligned, and mark where the 3 holes need to be by drilling through the holes on the template, and then drill the holes to the depth that is marked on the drill bits. Marking holes on the front panel with the template is very similar to marking them on the back panel, except that you will align the bottom edge of your template to the top edge of the groove in the front panel. Then again, you mark the 3 holes and drill them in. And that's it. You build the drawers as per the instructions in the manual and you're done. And here they are in the kids' room. Everything is out of sight. Of course, the drawers are messy inside. Kids are going to be kids, but it's out of my sight, and I'm happy about it. All right, so here are some of the mistakes that we made and things that you should avoid doing. The very first mistake we made was on our very first drawer. We ended up cutting the front and the back panel the same length, and this meant that the holes on the front and the back panels did not align anymore after assembly. The side panel on that cut side ended up fitting really crooked, and we had to do some additional adjustment to make the bottom panel fit. So make sure that you study the construction of the item you're modifying very carefully before you make modifications. Our second mistake was attaching the bottom panel to the drawer before fitting the wheels. And this is as recommended in the instruction manual. However, now we had to ensure that the casters are actually attached square to the back and the front edge, and for that we need the back and the front edges free. So we had to remove the bottom panels, attach the casters, and then reattach the bottom panels. So kind of think about what your next step needs to be. The third was not exactly a mistake, but we did not expect to find the hollow front panel. So we had to find the scrap wood and stuff it in as I showed you, but hopefully you guys wouldn't have to go through it because you already know. And finally, we did not finish the cut edges. Luckily, in our case, we can fit the drawers in a way that the cut edges kind of face away from everyone. But if you need the cut edges finished, make sure that you do so before you assemble the drawers. Total cost of the project ended up being $200 and some manual labor. So if you like the video, please let me know in the comments below if you ever thought of modifying any IKEA item. Thank you again for joining me. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.